April 12, 1944. Camp Shelby, Mississippi. The train screeches to a halt with a metallic shriek that makes several men flinch. The boxcar doors slide open and sunlight pours in, too bright after days of darkness, sweat, and diesel fumes. German prisoners of war blink, shielding their eyes, boots crunching onto gravel as they step down one by one. They are thin, exhausted, and suspicious. Oberstfreiter Karl Muller grips his bread bag as if it might be taken from him at any moment. He has spent the last 8 months fighting and retreating across Italy, then weeks in Allied cages near Naples. He has heard stories, whispered rumors pass between prisoners, about America, about camps, about interrogations. None of them are good. He expects shouting. He expects rifle butts. He expects hunger used as leverage. Instead, an American sergeant steps forward, clipboard tucked under one arm. His uniform is clean. His helmet sits loose on his head. He does not shout. "You will line up," the sergeant says calmly, his accent thick but his tone measured. "You will be searched. You will receive food, medical checks, and housing. You will be treated according to the Geneva Convention." The interpreter repeats it in German. Several prisoners exchange looks. One of them lets out a short, disbelieving laugh. The Geneva Convention. Muller has not heard that phrase spoken aloud by an enemy officer since the war began. On the Eastern Front, it meant nothing. In German training lectures, it was dismissed as naive idealism. Rules written by weak nations, irrelevant in a war survival. Soviet prisoners had been left to starve. German soldiers captured by the Red Army were rumored to vanish eastward, never to return. Now, standing on American soil, Muller does not know whether this is a lie meant to soften him up or something worse. The search is thorough but impersonal. No blows, no insults. Personal items are cataloged. A medic checks teeth, eyes, wounds. When Muller's old shrapnel scars examined, the American corpsman nods and moves on, making a note. Then comes food. Not a ladle of watery soup. Not a crust of bread. Actual trays. White bread, beans, meat, coffee. Muller eats slowly, convinced it must be a test, that anyone who eats too quickly will be punished later. But no punishment comes. The guards sit nearby, relaxed, rifle slung casually, watching but not looming. Later that afternoon, the prisoners are marched past rows of wooden barracks. Clean, screened windows, latrines that smell of disinfectant, not rot. Inside, bunks with real mattresses, not straw. A notice board near the entrance lists camp rules in German and English. One line stands out. Collective punishment is forbidden. That sentence alone feels unreal. Captain James Holloway, U.S. Army Military Police, watches the intake from a distance. He has overseen 3 transports this month alone. Each time, the reaction is the same. Confusion first, then guarded disbelief. He knows why. American intelligence briefings have made it clear. German soldiers arrive conditioned by years of propaganda. They expect revenge. They expect humiliation. They expect to be treated the way prisoners are treated in German camps, or worse, the way they themselves treated prisoners in the East. That expectation is a weapon, Holloway has been told. Disarm it. The Geneva Convention is not optional policy here. It is doctrine. Guards are trained explicitly. No unnecessary force, no insults, no theft of personal items. Food rations for POWs must match those of U.S. troops stationed nearby. Medical care is mandatory. Work details are paid in scrip. Violations are punished. That enforcement shocks the prisoners more than kindness ever could. Over the following days, Muller begins to notice patterns. Guards rotate shifts but behave the same way. Red Cross parcels arrive and are distributed without interference. Mail is censored but delivered. Complaints, when filed through camp representatives, are actually answered. One afternoon, a guard corrects another for shouting unnecessarily. "You don't need to yell," he says. They understand. The German prisoners hear it. They hear everything. At night, lying on his bunk, Muller stares at the wooden ceiling and tries to reconcile this with everything he was taught. America was supposed to be decadent, brutal, racially chaotic, incapable of discipline. Yet the discipline here is everywhere, and it cuts both ways. Rules restrain prisoners. Rules restrain guards. And that realization begins to unsettle the men more deeply than cruelty ever could. Because if this is how America treats its enemies, what kind of war is Germany actually fighting? May 3rd, 1944. Camp Shelby, Mississippi. The novelty of clean bunks and full meals fade within weeks, but the unease does not. It deepens. Carl Muller sits at a wooden table in the camp mess hall, hands wrapped around a chipped enamel mug. Coffee steam curls upward, rich and dark. Across from him, Unteroffizier Franz Becker stares into his own cup without drinking. "This is wrong," Becker mutters in German. "It doesn't make sense." Muller knows what he means. Comfort is suspicious. Order without cruelty feels like a trick. Becker had fought in Russia in 1941. Smolensk, Vyazma. He had seen Soviet prisoners herded into open fields. No shelter, no food. Thousands dying within weeks. He had not protested. No one did. It was simply how war worked. Or so they were told. Now Becker watches American guards joke with each other while standing watch over enemy soldiers. He sees them stop fights instead of encouraging them. He hears them warn prisoners about heat exhaustion during work details. None of this matches the war Becker remembers. Word spreads through the camp in fragments. Some prisoners compare notes with men captured earlier in North Africa. Others hear rumors from Italian POWs transferred from different compounds. The stories align too well to be coincidence. In America, the rules are real. Geneva Convention lectures begin soon after. German prisoners are allowed to elect camp spokesmen. Lateral test. Meetings are held. Interpreters are present. Complaints are logged. When a prisoner claims his blanket was confiscated unfairly, the matter is investigated. The blanket is returned. When a guard strikes a prisoner during an argument, the guard is removed from duty pending review. That incident becomes legend within days. A guard punished for hitting a German. Muller begins to understand that the Americans are not improvising kindness. They are enforcing a system. Captain Holloway briefs his MPs weekly. He reminds them why this matters. Every one of these men has family back home. Holloway says, "Our boys are prisoners too. How we treat their shapes how ours are treated. Now and after, it is not sentimentality. It is strategy." The German prisoners slowly realize something else as well. Propaganda did not just lie to them about America's weakness. It lied about America's values. Posters once warned that surrender meant torture, starvation, humiliation. That American guards would seek revenge for bombing raids and U-boat sinkings. Instead, revenge is conspicuously absent. That absence gnaws at morale. Muller writes letters home. Carefully worded, censored. He avoids explicit praise. Still, hints slip through. "I am healthy," he writes. "I am fed. Do not worry." His mother replies months later, shocked that the letter arrives at all. Within the camp, discussions shift. At first they center on survival, then on comparison. How can they afford this? Becker asks one evening, gesturing at the lit barracks, the stock kitchens, the medical clinic that never seems to run out of supplies. Muller has no answer. But the question matters. German guards in POW camps back home are overstretched. Rations shrink. Medical supplies disappear. The war has reached into every cupboard. Yet here, in enemy territory, resources seem almost casual. The Americans even allow work details outside the camp. Prisoners harvest crops, repair roads, chop wood. They are paid in camp script, redeemable at the canteen. There is ice cream, the presence of choice, choosing what to buy, choosing how to spend time, creates a psychological crack German indoctrination never anticipated. Men who expected to be brutalized instead experience boredom. Reflection, comparison. Some begin to talk openly about the war's direction. If this is how they treat us, Becker says quietly one night, imagine how they treat their own soldiers. That thought lands heavily. Because if the enemy can afford fairness and victory, what does that say about Germany's future and defeat? American intelligence officers listen carefully during interrogations, not for secrets, those dry up quickly, but for tone, for belief, for cracks and certainty, they notice a pattern. Prisoners from the Eastern Front struggle the most. The contrast is too stark, too personal. One former Wehrmacht lieutenant breaks down during a routine interview, not from fear, but from confusion. "We were told you would be monsters," he says. If that was a lie, what else was? That question spreads silently through the camp, unspoken but ever present. The Geneva Convention, once dismissed as weakness, has become an unexpected weapon, not against bodies, but against belief. And belief, once shaken, does not easily recover. June 18, 1944. Camp Shelby, Mississippi. The heat settles over the camp like a lid. Cicadas buzz in the pine trees beyond the wire, loud enough to drown out conversation. Sweat darkens the backs of gray prison uniforms as German POWs line up for evening roll call. Carl Muller notices something new in the faces around him. The fear is gone. Not relief, fear. The sharp, animal tension he carried since surrender has thinned into something heavier and more dangerous. Thought. Roll call ends. Guards wave them toward the barracks with practiced ease. No shouting. No rifle butts. Just routine. Inside Barrack C, a group of prisoners clusters around a crude chessboard carved from scrap wood. Others lie on bunks reading dog-eared paperbacks. English novels translated into German by the YMCA. A few listen to a radio broadcast piped into the common area. American swing music, upbeat and careless. This, Muller realizes, is how certainty dies. Quietly, Becker sits on his bunk polishing boots that no one inspects anymore. His movements are slow, deliberate. He has started asking questions, real ones. How many factories do you think they have? He asks Muller. Not military, civilian. Muller shrugs. Enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one that fits. Work details outside the camp have expanded. Prisoners now ride trucks into nearby towns under light guard. They see gas stations open, grocery stores stocked, car dealerships for vehicles sitting unsold, untouched by war rationing beyond mild inconvenience. American civilians stare at them with curiosity, not hatred. Some wave, a few even smile. One farmer hands Muller a cigarette during a break, saying only, "Rough business, this war. Not your war, not your fault. Just war." The words linger. Back in the camp, rumors move faster than official notices. News of Normandy has arrived, at first as whispers, then confirmed by newspapers distributed under supervision. Headlines scream about Allied landings, vast armadas, thousands of ships. German prisoners gather around the print, scanning maps with professional eyes. They understand logistics, and what they see terrifies them. This is not a raid. Becker says flatly, this is an ending. The Americans do not gloat. They do not taunt. They simply keep feeding the prisoners, keep enforcing the rules, keep running the camp as if history itself were inevitable. Captain Holloway notices changes too. Fewer fights, fewer defiant stares, more questions during English classes, more prisoners volunteering for work details. Compliance born not of fear, but acceptance. The camp chaplain, Reverend Thomas Green, begins hosting optional discussion groups. Attendance is high, too high. Men who once swore absolute loyalty to the Reich now debate responsibility, morality, consequence. Some defend themselves weakly. Others say nothing at all. One night, a former SS sergeant storms out of a meeting, furious. "They are poisoning us," he shouts. "This kindness is a lie." No one follows him. American intelligence officers take note. Radical elements isolate themselves. Moderate voices dominate. The transformation is not forced. It is permitted. That is what makes it effective. Muller writes again to his mother. "The guards follow rules," he writes. "Strict ones. Even when it would be easier not to." He hesitates, then adds, "They believe the rules matter." The reply takes months. When it comes, the paper is thin, the handwriting shaky. Food is scarce. Air raids frequent. Fuel ration almost to nothing. She asks him how America can afford all this. Mueller has no answer that fits in a letter. The final illusion breaks one afternoon when a German medical officer collapses during a work detail. Heat stroke. Immediate response follows. American medics, ice packs, transport to a civilian hospital. The man survives. Later, Mueller overhears two guards talking. Can't lose a POW, one says. Paperwork nightmare. They laugh, not cruelly but casually. A German officer saved because bureaucracy demands it. That night, Mueller lies awake listening to insects hum through the open windows. He thinks of men he saw die unnamed in frozen fields, body stacked because there was no time. He understands now that cruelty had been normalized, sold as necessity, efficiency, strength. Here, restraint is normalized instead, and restraint, he realizes, requires confidence. By summer's end, the camp feels less like a prison and more like a waiting room for a future Germany no one prepared them for. The war is still raging. Bombs still fall. Men still die. But for these prisoners, something more permanent has ended. The certainty that they were on the right side of history. September 3rd, 1944. Camp Shelby, Mississippi. Rain turns the red dirt roads to mud. Boots sink with each step as prisoners return from work details. Trousers darken to the knee. The air smells of wet pine oil and cooked bread drifting from the camp kitchens. The war feels closer now, yet farther away than ever. Carl Mueller stands under the awning outside the mess hall, watching American trucks roll past the wire. Each carries crates stenciled with neat white lettering. Spare parts, medical supplies, food, always food. The guards move with the same routines they follow for months. No tightening of discipline. No visible celebration as news arrives from Europe. Paris liberated. German armies retreating on every front. If anything, the rules are enforced more carefully now. Captain Holloway gathers a staff in the administration building. Orders from Washington are clear. Treatment standards are not to slip as victory approaches. No shortcuts. No understandable lapses. History will be watching, the memo says. The irony is not lost on him. Inside the camp, fractures deepen, not between prisoners and guards, but among the prisoners themselves. Those who once clung hardest to ideology now find themselves isolated. Their speeches ring hollow in a place where kindness has no obvious cost. Attempts at intimidation fall flat. Informal leadership shifts quietly to men who can explain, who can listen, who can imagine something beyond slogans. Classes expand. English lessons become discussions. American instructors explain civic systems, labor unions, elections, not as propaganda, but as answers to questions the prisoners ask themselves. How does a country stay disciplined without fear? One man asks. The instructor shrugs. It doesn't. It stays accountable. That word, accountable, echoes. Work details increasingly place prisoners in direct contact with civilian America. Lumber mills, farms, road crews, always under guard, but rarely under suspicion. Mueller spends weeks repairing fences on a dairy farm. The owner's teenage son asks him what Berlin is like. His daughter asks if Germany has movie theaters. They are not mocking him. They are curious. One evening, the farmer pays a POW work crew in camp-issued script, as allowed by regulation. Mueller buys toothpaste, writing paper, and a chocolate bar from the camp store. Chocolate. In wartime. He turns it over in his hands, thinking of children back home. The realization settles fully now. America has not suspended its values to win the war. It has scaled them. That distinction matters. In October, the camp hosts a Red Cross inspection. Swiss observers walk the grounds, notebooks in hand. They interview prisoners privately. They inspect kitchens, infirmaries, barracks. The report is posted publicly days later. In compliance, some German prisoners stare at the notice longer than necessary. Others look away. News arrives from Europe of camps, real camps, being uncovered as Allied armies advance east. Rumors first, then details. Mass graves, starvation, systematic brutality. The reaction inside Camp Shelby is not denial. It is silence. That night, Mueller hears a man crying quietly 2 bunks down. No one tells him to stop. The Geneva Convention, once dismissed as naive idealism, now feels like a lifeline thrown backward through time. For American guards, the emotional burden grows heavier. Treating defeated enemies humanely becomes more complex as the full scope of the war emerges. Private James Carter writes in his journal, "It's hard to be fair when you're angry. That's why it matters." Thanksgiving comes. Prisoners are served turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce. Same portions as the guards. A few men refuse to eat. Most do. Becker sits across from Mueller, staring at his plate. "They didn't have to do this," he says quietly. "No," Mueller replies. "They chose to." By December, Germany is collapsing. Letters from home stop arriving altogether. The future becomes a blank space. American officers begin preparing education materials for repatriation. Pamphlets on democratic governance, on rebuilding, on responsibility. No one forces the prisoners to read them. Most do anyway. On Christmas Eve, the camp holds a joint service. American carols mix with German hymns. Snow does not fall, but the night is cool and clear. For a moment, war feels distant. Mueller realizes something then, something unsettling. If Germany is to survive after this war, it will not be because of strength or sacrifice or obedience. It will be because someone chooses restraint when revenge would be easier. He has seen that choice day after day, made by men with power over him. And he knows, with a clarity sharper than fear, that the war was lost long before the first American tank crossed into Germany. It was lost the moment cruelty became policy, and rules became optional. May 8th, 1945. Camp Shelby, Mississippi. The announcement comes over the camp loudspeaker just after noon. There is no fanfare in the voice reading it, only clarity. Germany has surrendered. For several seconds, nothing happens. Then sound ripples through the camp in fragments. A chair scraping, a breath drawn sharply. Somewhere down the barracks line, a man laughs once, loudly, then stops himself as if ashamed. Carl Mueller remains seated on his bunk, hands folded. He feels no surge of emotion, no relief, no grief, no triumph. Only a strange, hollow stillness. The war that shaped his entire adult life has ended while he stood behind wire in Mississippi. Outside, American guards receive the same news. Some cheer, others simply nod and go back to work. Orders are orders. The routine holds. That steadiness strikes Mueller more deeply than celebration would have. Captain Holloway walks the perimeter personally that afternoon. He stops at several compounds, speaking briefly to prisoner representatives. "You'll hear a lot of talk," he says evenly, "about revenge, about payback. That's not how this camp runs. Same rules today as yesterday. The wire does not come down. The gates do not open. The war may be over, but responsibility is not." In the days that follow, prisoners begin to talk freely about the future. Repatriation, ruins, trials, guilt. Some still cling to excuses. Most no longer bother. American officers organize structured discussion groups, not lectures, but forums. Prisoners speak. Guards listen. Historians, chaplains, and legal officers answer questions without slogans. What happens to soldiers who followed orders? One man asks. "It depends," the legal officer replies. Orders don't erase responsibility. No one argues. Red Cross parcels arrive more frequently now. Letters resume, sparse and careful. Cities reduced to rubble. Families displaced. Familiar streets erased. Mueller receives one note from his sister, written on salvaged paper. Their parents are alive. The apartment is gone. He reads it 3 times. Work details continue. Farms still need labor. Roads still need repair. Civilians still treat the prisoners with a curiosity that now feels less awkward and more human. At a hardware store in town, Mueller notices a newspaper headline. "Victory abroad, vigilance at home." The article argues that how America treats its enemies now will define the peace more than any treaty. He folds the paper carefully and keeps it. Inside the camp, discipline among prisoners improves rather than collapses. Theft drops. Violence nearly disappears. Men who once glorified brutality now shrink from it, embarrassed by the contrast they've lived under. One former SS man is quietly ostracized, not by guards, but by fellow prisoners. Not because he lost, because he will not acknowledge why. In June, preparations for return accelerate. Medical checks, clothing issued, personal belongings cataloged. The process is methodical, almost bureaucratic in its fairness. On the final Sunday before the first transport leaves, a German-language church service is held. Attendance is voluntary. Nearly everyone comes. The chaplain speaks of judgment, but not divine. Human. He speaks of rebuilding, not cities, but trust. Afterward, Muller walks the perimeter one last time. He stops near the gate where he first entered the camp months earlier. Private Carter is on duty. Going home soon, Carter says. Yes, Muller replies. To something different. Carter nods. Same for everyone, I guess. They stand in silence. When the transport trucks finally roll out days later, there are no jeers. No thrown stones. American guards stand at attention. Orders are followed to the letter until the very last moment. As the camp recedes, Muller looks back at the watchtowers, the wire, the flags. He realizes something unsettling and enduring. This place was not gentle. It was not kind by accident. It was controlled, deliberate, ruled, and because of that, it taught a lesson Germany would now be forced to learn the hardest way possible. That power without rules destroys itself. That obedience without conscience leads only to ruin. And that the true shock was never the food or the cars or the clean beds. It was discovering that even in war, some nations chose to remain bound by law, not because it was easy, but because it mattered.